Welcome to the DeFi Standard. This is Patty XRP, and today I'm coming at y'all with some information regarding the Cure53 security audit of the Bifrost wallet, which is being created by Toho Labs, and they are the developers of the XRP toolkit. They run a XRP ledger validator in a nuclear bunker, and I want to say Switzerland. They have some background in the space and everything. And if you remember, we have talked about this wallet previously. It's not officially released yet. They've been waiting on the security audit before they can kind of make their final preparations before putting a beta out and letting people test it. Basically, this Bifrost wallet is meant to be a multi-chain wallet to be used in DeFi, and they're kind of one of their first focuses is going to be on the Flare network. They've partnered with the Flare team that is building the Flare network to get this ready, so they definitely have a partnership going on and some communication while this wallet application has been built. And what else can you do with this wallet? Well, you're going to be able to hold like XRP, Ethereum, Dogecoin, Litecoin, Stellar. Those are some of the different types of assets. Then, as we go into DeFi in the Flare network, you can hold all your Flare Finance, your trust line tokens like Ore or YFin, YFlare. You'll be able to hold Spark. You'll be able to wrap your Spark tokens so you can use that detachable vote. You'll be able to delegate the Spark detachable votes to the signal provider there, and then you'll also be able to mint F assets through this wallet. They're going to have an application for iOS and Android, and it also looks like they'll have a browser view as well. So they have a lot of things going on with this. I guess also like you're going to be able to have Gala token, Gala Games NFTs will be able to store there. So I mean, it's a pretty all-encompassing wallet for the Flare network at launch. So I'm really excited about it, but I'm definitely really excited about the fact that they finally got the security audit done and we can take a look at it. I read through this earlier today. And so we'll just kind of highlight a few things from the security audit. But let's first start off with talking about the firm that conducted the analysis. They're called Cure53 and they are from Germany. They've been around since about 2015 and they've done many different types of basically security audits for different technology platforms and things like that. They do have some background in crypto. So one of the important like security audits they have done for a wallet is the My Ether wallet website. They did that back in 2018. That's a really well-known wallet for Ethereum, also known as Mu, if you've heard of that. Additionally, they did a security audit for the Exodus iOS mobile app. So, I mean, they have some experience with blockchain. Obviously, you can see they've done a lot of different tests over the years. They've been around in the space, which, helps me in, analyzing if the security audit is, even worth looking at. To me, it checks out. You guys will have to make that decision on your own. If you just type in Cure53 in Google, really easy to find this website. I can link it in the description as well. And then I'll also include the PDF file that we're about to take a look at here. And this is like the official report they put out from the security audit that they did on the Bifrost wallet from Toho Labs. We can hit on the introduction here, and basically they said they did both a source code assisted penetration tests and dedicated auditing efforts, specifically investigated the Toho Labs Bifrost crypto wallet application together with backend API endpoints connected to the app. And then additionally, they said they took a total of 10 days invested to cover this project by a team of 3 senior testers. And their testing included code assisted penetration tests against the Bifrost crypto wallet application and API. And they also had a code assisted deep dives against specific features and areas of interest, which they cover further. Um, they said that they had access to all relevant sources in scope. And then also, they ran into no noteworthy roadblocks during their testing. So that's all good stuff. Additionally, kind of the scope of the testing also includes security properties of the air handling roll bar, This is just an SDK they're using, not super important to like what individual investors would know about. They also have secure handling of recovery phrase generation, import, and storage. So this is really big. This is them testing whether the private keys of your cryptocurrency is securely handled, stored. How easy is it to be hacked into, essentially. And then they also went into general properties around app protection. So that's a PIN code you could use, biometrics, so your thumbprint, your face with the newer iPhones. And they looked into a couple other things. One was security posture of the dependency tree. This dependency tree is just them using libraries created by other people for their code base and just making sure all of that is up to snuff and safe. And then finally, they just ran general checks against risky practices that maybe Towo Labs was doing. Another nice thing about this report is they do leave like little tips. Like it's not things that are necessarily like that bad, but just other things you can do on top of what Towo has already done to secure this wallet application. But the outcome of the security audit was actually really good. And this is what the Cure53 team had to say about it. Um, they only made one security relevant discovery. This flaw was classified as a general weakness with very low exploitation potential. No actual vulnerabilities were spotted, which is a fantastic result for the Towo wallet app and the connected backend parts. It is obvious that the Towo Labs team has incorporated very good security practices from very early on, and that the attack surface is kept minimal and well protected. Love to hear that from an official report. With this Cure53 firm that has previous experience with different blockchain applications that are still around today. So that's really really nice to hear reading through this. And if we move down a little farther, we can kind of get into a little more what the tests were about. But let me try and generalize this as much as possible because there's a lot of techie talk in there. All right, so they basically ran a bunch of different attack vectors against the APIs, which is application programming interface. It's just basically a system that allows you to call upon other applications or things like that to utilize in your application. It could be something that gives a data feed or allows you access to like another code base to pull that. So they ran a bunch of different attacks, like I was saying. None of them compromised the security of the wallet. And additionally, like some of the stuff they did was try and fake gas prices and make them look extremely high. But basically, the app has to obtain confirmation from the user transparently, and users will notice unnecessary high fees. It's like that was not an attack vector that could work, trying to trick people into paying more for something than they actually have to. And then also they kind of checked path traversal or inclusion of external resources. So that kind of has to do with the APIs, how they're like calling on other applications to use, just checking if that's all up to snuff and safe. And then additionally, so yeah, for typing requests and responses with the code, they use something called TypeScript, which Cure53 lauds as a very good choice. And the backend was found to act as a client for multiple blockchains, mostly relaying signed transactions and account balances to the appropriate chain. So this kind of speaks to how it's going to be a multi-chain wallet. They're already integrating it with multiple blockchains so that it can sign the transactions and pull account balances and things like that. So that's cool to see. And then additionally, they have they look into some more attack vectors. So one has to do with the PIN code, and due to directly linking to views that should only be accessible after an authorization step. However, no deep leaking or custom intent handlers are being used, so they're safe in that regard from that attack vector. Also, you can see here they focused the audit on communication between JavaScript running within the web view and the application. So this is one of the things, like they haven't talked about the like web application that they're going to use or like what they're doing with that completely yet, but we can see that they are building one. So this is just be something you access on your browser, kind of like what we're looking through right now. The Cure53 team also audited the encryption layer and native storage for Bifrost, which they found no general issues with. So that's all having to do with the security of your assets and accessing them through the Bifrost wallet. And that kind of completes the first set that we talked about earlier. And they also did these deep dives against specific features and areas of interest. This section describes the deep dives that were performed on dependencies and specific areas of concern listed by Bifrost. So they did some testing on the error handling rollbar. It says the wallet app uses the rollbar SDK to collect information about errors and crashes from the user's devices. During testing, no leaks of critical information were observed. That's really good to know. Like, if we put our name in, our email or things like that, are we going to be okay? So it sounds good there. As far as app protection with PIN and biometrics. So biometrics were found to be outsourced to a certain dependency. The library is used as intended without further customizations. It also catches authentication errors appropriately. They also state no way was found to bypass the PIN confirmation or extract the user's master key without knowledge of the PIN or valid biometrics. This also holds for the user's master key and derived private keys. So like they can't get in and attack and get your information or your assets unless they know what your PIN or your biometrics are. And when I say knowing what your biometrics are, I don't mean the type, like what are the specific data points that they get from your thumbprint or your face that allows you to log in to applications. And then further, they kind of go into this dependency tree. And what I was talking about, you can see they have these different dependencies, which is just different applications that they're utilizing for the Bifrost wallet. And then they list a few risky practices. These are things that aren't necessarily detrimental to the system that Bifrost is, they're building with Bifrost, but rather it's just different security measures they could take that, the Cure53 team has realized could be best practice. So one of the things they talk about is basically, the complex destroys the wallet of a user after entering the incorrect PIN 10 times to aggressively prevent wallet access. So, if somebody tried to get into your account 10 times and they put the incorrect PIN, then it would destroy the wallet. Now, the reason this may not be the best practice, it says, although this is a desirable security mechanism, it could be used by attackers to destroy financial assets from a user's phone that does not have a backup of their recovery phrase. So if you wrote your recovery phrase down somewhere, that doesn't really matter to you, but some people may not do that. And allowing, somebody to type in 10 times a PIN code, that could, basically make it so they can't access that stuff anymore. So that would be an issue. And they kind of give some different ways to handle that the TOA Labs team can take into account. However, there really wasn't much else that they were suggesting, but we will touch on the one issue they talked about at the beginning. And so basically, it says they're missing a TLS certificate pinning for the backend API. And they said, as a consequence of this, there's a chance for the connection being intercepted by attackers that have access to a generally trusted certificate authority. This could be abused to read and intercept all traffic between the Bifrost backend and the intercepted users. So, basically, just reading your data traffic that's going back and forth between the backend of the Bifrost application and what you're doing. They said, as the backend must not be trusted, this issue is purely informational, so they can't actually hack in and change anything. They would just be able to read whatever you're doing in between there, and that's if somebody was able to get access to this TLS certificate, which they said at the beginning they don't see it as being a huge issue. But now the TOA Labs team knows about it, they can fix it. Yeah. And so, moving on here, we can go to their conclusions. So, They said, as can be seen by the near complete lack of findings, the Towo Bifrost wallet has a very strong security standing. After spending 10 days testing the scope in June 2021, 3 members of our team can clearly praise the security related decisions taken by Towo Labs during the development phase so far. While the app is still in active development and many critical features have not been fully implemented yet, this test leaves a very good first impression. The code is clean and easy to understand, which makes it easy to audit. The 3 main threat models were audited. Those were direct attacks against the backend server, attacks against the mobile apps from malicious applications on the phone or done by physical attackers, as well as attacks against the apps from a compromised backend. Even with a fully compromised backend, the financial assets and personal data needs to remain as safe as can be. This stresses the value of the principle of least privilege that was found throughout the architecture. This could especially be observed when the impact of, and this is a link to earlier in the document, was nullified. The attack surface of the mobile apps was minimized with best efforts, particularly thanks to utilizing well tested dependencies correctly and without security relevant customizations that open room for error. Concluding from the results and impressions gathered during this audit, it can be said that the Bifrost architecture is on its optimal path to furnish a very secure crypto wallet. I mean, that all sounds pretty good to me. I'm curious what else Toho puts out about this, or if they make any kind of changes and have them take a second look. I'll be interested to see that. But overall, I mean, I think this is pretty solid that this has come out and we kind of can finally start imagining ourselves using this. I'd say next, let's see the beta. Hopefully, that'll be out before too long, but I'm not entirely sure on that one. And then cutting away from the security audit, I just wanted to touch on a little news. I put this out on Twitter earlier, but basically, the Flare network has updated their documentation on their website to include info on how to hook up your Ledger Nano X and S um, to MetaMask in order to access the Flare network when it goes live. So I'll throw this in the description as well so you guys can utilize this in the future if you choose to receive Spark on your Ledger and then not move it over to Bifrost or somewhere else. Then this is how you'll be able to access the Flare network. Basically, they're talking about installing the Spark app, which we do know we had seen Ledger tweeting out that they're working on that and currently reviewing it. I mean, if Flare Network's coming out and saying this is how you're going to do it, I'm pretty hopeful at this point that the Spark app on the Ledger Nano will be available and we'll just install it and then we'll be able to directly access our Spark tokens through Ledger Live. The only issue is like how much functionality they're going to give you with the Flare network through Ledger Live. So that's why you may need something like Bifrost or like MetaMask in order to access the Flare network, at least in the early days. And then last part of this, I just want to make an announcement. We kind of mentioned this in the live stream from Saturday, but we are now going to be running a node on the Flare network. I got that up and running. You can see if I just kind of started it up here, it's currently running cost and testnet. And this is kind of it booting up, and we'll be hosting this through an Amazon web server. And yeah, there you go. It's kind of running now. And that's just kind of how the network runs. It's making a bunch of calls and just running the software for the nodes. But figured I'd just share that with y'all. I think it's cool that we're going to have this. I want to look into more like what kind of data can be pulled from a node in the future, like when it's launched, and if we can use some of that for the website or any videos in the future. So hopefully you guys enjoyed hearing about the audit. We're getting really close to the Flare network going live. I mean, I guess if you say a month's close, but to me, compared to how long we've been waiting, so definitely exciting. Definitely a lull period here, but we'll get through it. Hope you guys have a solid rest of your night or day, wherever you're at. This was the DeFi Standard, and I'm Patty XRP, and I'll catch y'all next time.